Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of my tutorial series. So in this series we've been looking at events, functions, interfaces and event dispatches, and in this particular part we'll be looking at functions. So without further ado, we'll look into what they are and how you can basically write one. So what is a function? Or more importantly, what is a function when you're working in Unreal Engine? Well, simply put, a function is something that performs a task, and that can be range from anything from jumping a character all the way through to retrieving a variable from a particular asset, like getting an actor position. So I'll go into the BP top-down character and I'll demonstrate a couple of which are in here. As I mentioned character before. So inside of the character I've got an interface call which is basically making the character jump. And as you can see here, this blue node is marked with a blue F symbol in the top left hand side, denoting that it's a function. Similar with stop jumping. And there's another example here, add to player screen, which is part of the user widget that appears when the game's over. So, okay, well, those are great. Those are all examples of things that come with Unreal Engine, but how do we make our own function? Well, all we need to do is, over on the left-hand panel, you'll see a plus symbol. If you click that, you'll notice a new function will appear. It'll take you into the graph automatically. And as you can see, you've got a new function all ready to be coded. So let's call this something like my cool function. So you might be forgiven for saying, well, hang on a minute, it looks like an event. Why can't I just put the code in there? Well, there's a fundamental difference between functions and events that you need to be aware of. So for a start, an event can take an input pin, so it can receive data, or a variable. But the one thing it can't do is it can't generate anything out, any variables as an output. So if I click on my core function, and you'll see an input pin, and you'll see an output pin. So in this scenario, the function would be taking a vector, and that would be returning a vector. Well, okay, well, that's great. So why not put that into an example? Well, in this scenario, I'm not going to input anything, but say if I wanted to check that the player is dead. So if I change that to is dead, promote to variable, go back into the event graph, drag my call function in, and as you can see here, you've got my call function. Looks similar to the jump one, but what's the practical use for this? Well, obviously there's no code inside of the function that can actually check the player's dead. There's nothing setting it to be true. But say if I wanted to ensure that the player couldn't jump, so I wanted to make a Boolean check here, and I only want the player to be able to jump if the value is false. So what I would do is I would just put that function call here, and it would literally perform the check. And if the player is not dead, jump. If not, then don't jump. And the same function could be put down for stop jumping, but for this example, I'm not going to bother. So, as you can see, the function is similar to an event, but it's not. But you can see how you can go inside the function and you can change the code to actually set something properly or to check something. And functions can be called from other graphs as well. So it's worth keeping that in mind. So now that we've got a rough idea of what a function is, how do we apply a practical example within the space of this particular framework? How can we reuse it? Well, first of all, we'll just delete the MyCall function. We don't need it. Oh. We'll delete it from the graph, and we'll just set that back to how it was. I'll save it. Well, let's go into the BP top-down game mode. So you notice in here there's a bit of code that'll actually create a timer. So if I just move it a bit closer, that we can see more what's going on. So when the game's either restarted or begins play, a clock timer begins, and this is called via an event, either at the beginning of play or when the game is restarted. What it's doing is it's setting a timer for every second, it's incrementing a second, and once it gets to a certain point, it'll do a modulus check to see if what's the remainder of seconds, and if it's equal to 0, then it will increment a minute and then set the seconds back down to 0, as it's a time building up, a stopwatch building up over time. Well, okay then, so how do I link this into a function? Well, okay, well I've got my timer by events, but maybe I should crunch this bit of code into a function rather than chain this event to that event, because we've already decided that starting the stopwatch is what we want to happen, but the implementation of the code maybe that should be the function. So what we can do is, well, first off, we can highlight all this code here. And if you right click, you can collapse to function. That'll put all of the code into here. And then what I'm going to do is we call this increment time. Well, as it stands, this won't work because it won't. It'll fire the event, but we're adding an extra node we don't need. So what we can do is we can delete that node and we can delete the set timer event. What we can do is we can set timer by function. We can have the same parameters as I had before. We can use the same handle as it's related. And what we can do is we can just call it here. This function is called increment time. So this is a good example of how using a function and changing the setup can save you a bit of nodes and make your graph look a bit cleaner. So if we actually go into the increment time function, you'll see that it's all the same code as before, only it's inside of its own graph. So let's just double check that works by hitting play. So it's quite quick, but okay. Start level, and you can see that the time is incrementing the same as before. So I'm going to wrap this video up regarding functions. You can see how functions are useful, and they're very good not only for tidying up code, but also having some actual functions which are named and can be called from any point. So if you look inside of the BP top-down game mode, a simple function is named increment time. When you go into it, that's where it does. So when you're planning out your different codes, and that sometimes you think, well, what can I just put into a function? So it's in its own space. If I need to make changes to this at any point, I can just change it in here without having to go in and go through lengthy node trees. But the other advantage is as well that you can call these functions multiple times and you can use it for whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to bring this video to a close now. I've given you an example of a function, and in the next part we'll look at interfaces.